Hey, Julian Cesc here, and we're at RacquetX with the guys from Mejor Set, Dan and Mario. Welcome to the channel. Let's get on it. Talk about paddle courts.
Yes. So Mejor Set, we've been in business for over 20 years. We are partners with Premier Padel, so all the courts here at the Miami Open are our courts. We're also partners with the International Padel Federation, so the World Cup and any events for the International Padel Federation are done with our courts. And we're going to announce soon that we're an official vendor too for the USPA in the United States, official court in Canada too. So anyways, we are focused always on quality, performance, innovation. We have a shock lock innovation in the Premier Court. We can talk about that too. Yes.
So talk to us about the U.S. market. You know,
Yes.
how many courts have been ordered, and how do you see that this year for 2025?
Yes. So last year, which was really our first year, we opened a subsidiary in the United States, and we have about 200 courts we did last year.
Wow.
Which is great for our first year. We're on track this year to do a lot more than that. So there's a lot of projects, a lot of excitement in the industry, and we're just really excited to be
Do
part
you
of
know
it.
where that's going towards? Is it going up more north from Miami, from Florida, and what areas?
Yes, so Florida obviously is the hotspot, right? Around Miami, we have several projects, other parts of Florida, but now there's a lot of traction in the Northeast, New York area, Boston, Philadelphia,
Nice.
Pennsylvania. Yeah, in Pennsylvania, there's quite a bit of movement too, and then Texas. Texas right now it's just growing
Hot,
tremendously. Houston is going to be a really hot market.
Nice.
Dallas and Austin, even on the southern part of Texas as well.
Wow.
There's a lot of things happening. And then on the west, in California, there's starting to also be movement. It's a bigger challenge to find locations. It's expensive. And the height of the ceilings, right, which is very important. So it's just a little slower than on this part of the US. And then Canada too. Canada is starting to get traction as well. So it's very exciting.
Okay, so let's talk about the collection of courts. How many do you have, and then can you go over the price?
Okay, but let's go with Dan. Dan is the
Dan,
one
go for it.
he's the pricing expert.
All right, there we go. Oh boy.
So we'll start at the top. We have the Premier Court, the ones that were in the Premier Tour. Those are full panoramic with the shock and the Premier Paddle Tour marketing on there, and that is those are around 38,000.
And that's a top.
That's
man,
the top.
with the shocks
That's
and
Yep.
full panoramic,
That's
super
court.
panoramic, right?
Right.
Nice.
Under that, we're gonna have the full panoramic, right?
So what's the difference between full and super panoramic?
Sure. So the full doesn't have the shock, and it
Okay.
doesn't have the Premier Paddle labeling all over it.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
So that second level is right around 32,000, and then under that we have the RC10, which the difference is it has a support post in the back. Everything else is panoramic.
One in the middle or on the side?
Just on the four corners.
Gotcha.
They have the support posts. Yep. And that one we sell 95% of what we sell in the United States. We
Top
sell
seller.
the RC10, right? That one is going to run $29,995, right? And then below that we have a budget cord as well. This one has the support beams in between each of the glasses, right? So and that has a little better wind load, and that one's around 24.
Okay, now is this mostly for commercial use, or do you see some residential here in the U.S. side?
We're seeing both.
Oh.
We're seeing, this week I had a guy that wants to start putting them in his Airbnbs,
Oh,
right?
man,
He's got
that's
30,
awesome.
30
I'm down for that.
residential properties
Oh, that's amazing.
that he's looking at putting a paddle court in. So I think both commercial were flying, as Mario said. It's really
Do
incredible.
you have a specific model just for residential, or which one would you suggest for residential?
People want the full panoramic.
Full panoramic.
Yeah, they want the beautiful one in their backyard.
Now, could they get some customizations for residential, or
As always, yep, we can do customizations with the net, the protections,
the
stuff
carpet
like that.
color? I'm assuming.
Yep.
Colors.
Different
that's
colors,
great. How about
different
the
turf
frame? How
color.
about the frame? Could they do a custom color on that?
We do. Yep.
Wow, that's great.
Let
So-
me touch base really on the residential side. We're seeing a lot of traction because a lot of famous athletes and celebrities are starting to play paddle in different markets. They're making a lot of buzz on social media about paddle. And now a lot of people are like, hey, before I wanted to have a basketball court or a tennis court in my backyard, then they started doing pickleball courts, and now they're like, what is the latest and coolest thing in the world, right? What is the new thing? And it's paddle. So they're like, hey, I want to have a paddle court in my house.
Right. So you see a lot of customizations there.
Yeah,
colors
you
and
gotta
flooring.
customize things more. You're talking to designers, they really value quality, and like you said before, right? I want a specific type of color,
Right.
a specific type of look on my court. So yeah, we can do all that. Yeah.
So let's talk now about the turf. Turf is, I think it's the paddle court. It's a paddle court. I mean, the turf is so important. Let's talk
Yeah.
about a little bit. What turf are you guys using?
We're using the Mondo turf, and Mondo is another key player with Premier Paddle. So it's great to have the partnership that with Premier Paddle Tour with Mejor Set, but also Mondo carries that relationship as well.
So when you order a court, that it comes with a Mondo. Sure,
Absolutely, yeah. And that really speaks to the quality of the Mejor Set court as a whole, right? So not only are we manufacturing the best product, but we have the best partners as well on the ancillary portions that are manufactured.
And are there different types of Mondo courts?
There are different types, yes. There's most of them we use are the kind of the circular filament.
texturized.
The texturized, right. And so that texturized helps to hide the sand in the court much better. You see some of the courts around, like you see some of the sand on top.
Yeah.
Ours are very clean in that. So it's again, we go back to the quality.
And so what's the other type?
So the other type is the straight filament,
Okay.
right?
The one you see the sand more, right? So when would you use either one? Indoors, outdoors?
So it really the one that has more sand on it, that monofilament, right, is the one that's is really the recommended one by Mondo, right, to put it outdoors. The challenge is that visually, right, you see a lot of sand, so a lot of clients prefer to sacrifice a little bit of the performance of the turf, let's say, or durability, with the better look, right? So we always tell every client to be very careful and mindful that if you put the texturized turf outdoors, you have to be careful in the corners of the court because there's a magnifying effect with the glass. It heats up that space and that burns a little bit.
Gotcha.
So, you solve that by putting more sand in those corners, right? And keeping a good eye on
So why do you
maintenance.
get that contraction? Why do you get that contraction with monofilament and not with the other one, or vice versa?
Yeah, so it's basically just two things. One is the heat, right? The heat is gonna make the turf expand, but it's not just the expansion; it's the actual it burns, right?
It can
It gets-
contract,
Yeah.
But why wouldn't it contract the other one, the regular one they're sticking
The other one has a lot more sand, so it has a lot more weight on it. So that weight is actually,
I got it.
Yeah, and also like when
gotcha.
you're talking about humidity, in areas that are just very humid, the more sun is going to absorb that humidity. It's going to dry faster.
Okay.
So if you're in environments where you're outdoors, right, it might be important after the rain. A lot of customers ask,
Washed out.
"Hey, how long does it take? So obviously that helps. But again, they go, I just want the better look. I want the
Right.
turf that's on TV, right? The beautiful turf that hides the sun. So I would tell you that most of the clients in the United States, even outdoors, they use the texturized. There's almost standard colors that are your blue, your green. It really comes down when people start asking the question which color is best or is not. Well, obviously, the blue one is great because there's a lot of contrast with the ball, right? And the same thing with the structure, right? So the more different that is than the yellow, green color of the ball, the more contrast, and that's why most courts are black on the structure side and then blue on the turf. A lot of residential customers, some clubs decide to use green on the color of the turf. And then beyond that, there's other standard colors like black, which is not recommended outdoors, but for indoor, red, purple, other colors, that are available as an option, right?
So let's talk about durability. If you use the wrong turf outdoors, you won't just get contraction, but will you also reduce the durability?
Yeah, of course. It's like everything else in the world, right? When you might go for a cheaper, solution, let's say, it's gonna be less durable, right?
So in this situation, it's not cheaper. It's just the wrong one, right?
Yeah, the wrong one. Yeah. So if
Okay.
you're on the wrong one, it's really, as far as durability, they're gonna be similar.
Okay.
Right? It's just, you can get some burns on some corners or something like this, right?
Gotcha.
Or it might be a little bit more slippery when it's wet versus the other one that has more sand and it doesn't, right? So it's more about the performance. As far as durability, you're looking to 5 to 7 years warranty on the actual turf. So it's really good. And it's really important to have. The turf is key, right?
Yeah.
Because first has to protect all the members, right? When they're playing paddle, it's gonna have to absorb that impact, and then the performance of the bounce is huge, right? It's very important.
Right.
And it's like everything else. If you don't invest in something good, in the long term, you're gonna end up spending more money.
Right.
Because when you're looking at maintenance, the thing that you have to replace more often in a paddle court is the turf, and that's gonna have to be done depending on the use, 5 to 7 years. And it's a higher expense than anything else on the paddle court,
So then, if somebody orders a court, 2 or 3 or just one, what is the time length of them receiving it? And do you guys have warehouses here?
Yes. So we do have a warehouse here that we have courts that can be shipped out, rather quickly within 48 hours, let's say.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we also have our manufacturing in Spain. So if we're shipping maybe a bigger order, the lead time for that is more, I would say, give anywhere from 60 to 90 days.
And you guys take care of all the logistics?
All
You
the
guys help with
logistics,
that? Oh,
right?
that's great.
DDP, right to the location. So
Excellent. Okay, so how about parts? Right, what if you break a glass or a net? You guys have that locally where they can get it quickly?
yes, of course. We have all like the parts, the lights, the nets, that stuff. We have it locally in a warehouse. And then for glass, we're actually partnering really soon with a glass company to provide glass locally here. So we can, one, take it out of our container, right, super heavy, and then also be able to supply glass on demand for anybody who needs it.
Would you suggest somebody buy an extra glass when they buy a quart?
Yeah, we always include actually.
Oh, you
we
include
already
it? Oh,
do
that is
this.
so
we
smart.
include extra glass
That
in
is
every
so
order.
smart.
It's always included in the price. Anytime we sell one quart, there's always a piece of glass included. We don't charge extra because, as a club owner, if the glass breaks for whatever reason, your quart is down.
Yeah.
And you cannot afford it, right? So you cannot wait for somebody. So what we do is, like, when we're doing the installation, we have somebody local that works with glass, and they watch how we install that glass, so they can call the customer right away. And if there's an issue, they can call that person right away and get the glass back right away.
So, a quick question: what happens when you're unloading the cord with the glasses and all that, and the glasses break? Who's responsible for that?
So it usually can be the transport company. It can happen on the transport, something breaks. Sometimes it might be somebody that's doing the unloading of the cords, which in our case, we include everything to our clients as a turnkey solution. So that would be our responsibility, with our installers. And then we'll send them right away from our warehouse, So things happen, obviously, but you have to be able to respond quick. So we can't afford to have something shipped from overseas.
Right. So how about installation and the consulting? Somebody purchased 6 cords from you guys. You do the logistics, you get it over there. Now they have to prep. They have to prep the flooring. They got to do the footing. Do you guys help them out with that with blueprints or how to do that with the GCs? Do you guys actually do it yourselves? And then also installation.
Yeah, so we do a little bit more than just selling the cords, right? So first of all, once we decide we're working together with a customer, they get us in touch with their general contractor. We provide all the foundation requirements, make sure they're meeting the standards that we're asking for. We guide the clients sometimes in choosing the right contractor. And then beyond that, we start saying, okay, who is applying for the permits? Is it the general contractor who's doing the base work? Is it an architect or designer? Who else it is? And we provide all the blueprints for that. We do have also a 3D service. So to provide them with drawings and renderings of the space, which is very important. All that stuff is included in the price, right? And we take good care of that relationship, and then we also provide consulting in the sense that I was previously a club owner, so I have we have some of us in the team that are experienced club owners, so we can guide them. Hey, they ask us how do I choose a location. where's the right height of the ceiling, what about demographics, all these things.
How about installation? Do you guys do you send people out, Danny, or do you have people here, or is it just one person that kind of is the whole crew? How does that work if somebody needed that?
And the cost.
Yeah.
Okay. So we work with several teams.
Okay, here in USA.
Some are based in the USA.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
for sure. Cost is around, could vary $6,500 to $8,500 per court,
Okay.
right? And then, depending.
Is that with a full crew?
That's with the full crew.
Okay.
Yep. Usually, 3 days to install one court. So if we're installing 4, we're going to be there for, a good, 12 days to install the full, all 4 courts. But yeah, teams in the USA that are readily available, they have full insurance, they're fully insured, they have licenses. So
the majority of the people that order courts from, do they get all the services from you, or because it's just easier and
and
that
we are very careful with that. We've had instances where the client decides to hire an installer, right? And then there's potential issues with that, right? So if an installation is not done correctly, it reflects bad on us as a
of
brand,
course.
right? So that's why we're very careful now. All the crews that we have they're certified by us, and if we don't have a crew, they're not. They just want to get like a supervisor, right? That's what we do. We send a supervisor to make sure everything is done correctly,
Right.
because safety is number one, right? Safety should be a priority in the industry and for everybody. And second, you want to take care of the brand and be mindful of that, So things have to be done properly. And it's not easy. Sometimes installation of the courts, you can do it quick and not properly, but you got to take good care of it. You got to take your time, make sure everything is perfect before you start. And some people want to rush, right? And that's not the right way to do things, right? So,
Danny, let's talk about the lights. What options do you have for lights? What comes standard? Let's talk about lights here.
yeah, so there's different types of lighting. The most important thing is you have to have a light that's specific for paddle, right? We see a lot of courts in other places with lights that are not made for paddle, right? And that's when you have coaches and a lot of members who are complaining when they look up, get blind, right?
Yeah.
Or there's too many shadows.
Yeah, as you get older, like Julian, you have problems with the
Yeah,
light.
there you
So
go.
what lights do you have that can help somebody like him?
There you go. So we work with LED Projects, right? LED Projects is the leading manufacturer in the world for paddle, probably one of the only manufacturing for paddle industry. So again, is the light pollution is important too. So we have a lot of clients who are in places where they ask them, it's like, look, what are you have a study for the light?
Yeah.
So it's just, there's no light pollution going on, right, on the light. So you're going to see your classical square type of lights, okay, and then you're going to have the linear lights like you guys have seen in the Premier Paddle.
So what comes standard with the course
So
itself?
the square ones,
Okay.
the customer can choose the linear ones that we call, right? And then there's specific type of lighting depending on, are you going to have broadcasting, for example, in your club, in your central court, right? Like Julian does, right?
Right.
So that's important because you need a specific type of lighting that has a little more light for broadcasting, right?
Gotcha.
So we always talk to the clients and we say, okay, what is the use really for each court, and provide the right type of lighting. And lighting is included. You can always upgrade, right? But they say the standard light that we have included is one of the top ones in the industry.
Great.
Right.
Excellent. I mean, I think it was very, very helpful, all this.
How about maintenance? Maintenance is another thing with the clubs. I go to clubs sometimes and there's sand all over here. There's a flat spot here. I see some rust stuff on the bolts. I mean, what is required of maintenance on these courts?
I mean, the overall maintenance isn't very difficult with the paddle court, but there are some specific things that you need to look for, especially if you're indoor or you're outdoor. There can be different things. Mostly with our courts, you want to make sure that the sand is evenly distributed throughout, and you're constantly brushing the top of the turf.
So what's the best way of doing that? Just a brush, or are there any tools for that?
No, more like a broom type brush, and then there's a specific brush here that we're looking at putting in with all of our installations.
Oh, that's great.
Made for paddle courts.
That's great.
So
Very nice.
but the brushing also helps to keep the turf in good condition, which improves the longevity of the turf, right? The other thing is the silicone in between the glass. Will need to be replaced every, right now it's like a year to 2 years on most silicone. If it's outdoor, it could be a little sooner because of the sun damage, but it's as simple as cleaning it out and then re-putting it in. And then from a service standpoint, we're building a network in America where we see the future of, like, now is great. We're selling, everybody's got a new court, right? Paddle's exploding. It's a good position to be in, but eventually we're going to have 10,000 courts that will need service in a year.
Right.
And we need to build relationships with people who are already doing like tennis court refurbs and stuff like that, where they can go out and do also a checklist of their paddle court to make sure it's always in top condition.
Very smart. I think there's a demand for that. Now, how often do you think clubs with courts outdoors need to add sand? I mean, I see it rain sometimes. I see flat spots. How often do you think they need to add sand or silicone?
So yeah, I think it depends on whether, you're going to look at your court and you're going to see that, some spots are maybe coming up or whatever, and you're going to need to add sand. Probably general rule is like every 6 months, you're going to need to add sand into the court.
Okay.
And it's really like, coaches and players who are there on the court and they see something, right? But I'm saying here, because it varies so much based on the rain, especially outdoors, right?
Yeah.
The sun, can just go with the rain, right? So depending how much it rains, and so it really comes down to the coaches that are there and the experienced players who see, the different bows. But once you start brushing everything, if you do that regularly, you should not have, any type of issues like this.
Right. And where can they get the sand? Is that something you can get locally, or you have to buy directly from you? Those things weigh a lot.
Yeah, this is another, big deal in my world right now is we're looking for, or we have targeted a couple of sand providers. So we'll be providing sand locally throughout the United States.
That's really great. I mean, that's key. You need sand. And I usually see in a club like a big area of sand there because you can't get it. It occupies a lot of space,
Exactly. Yeah, so, we always leave extra sand, obviously, after every installation. But like Dan saying, it's important. It's a heavy item. If you have to ship it, long ways, it weighs a lot. It's expensive. The sand itself is not that expensive, but the shipping is,
shipping costs more.
So, we're just looking into the future.
And also the storage.
Yeah, the storage, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Where are you going to put it?
Where you're going to put that
space,
Exactly. So, we're looking, like Danny's saying, towards the future, and being very mindful of what we're doing in the United States and logistically how things are done, service, maintenance, everything else. So.
Right now, if somebody wanted to buy courts from you, where would they do that?
So they can just go through our website, Mejorset.com, and there they can see the U.S. contact details. They'll find Dan or myself, and that's probably the best way to contact us. And we just, always excited. We do things a little different than other manufacturers. We take the time to answer every lead that comes in, and we do a Teams call with them, and we listen to what their project is. And some people are starting on their journey, building a business plan. Other people are more advanced on their journey. They might have had clubs before. So different type of profiles, the different leads that come in. But we do take the time to listen to everybody and learn about their project and their vision and their dreams, right? Their paddle dreams.
That's great, Mario.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Spending time explaining the courts from us. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.